All right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our fifth annual Big Give. Our theme for this year is Dupe 15Q syndrome does not come with a manual, but it comes with a family that never gives up. And, you know, I know sometimes we think of family just as like the caregivers, but we are here today with Amy Wheadon, and she is part of the King's Day Out team. She is an OT, and I feel like my Brendan, who has Dupe 15Q syndrome, he started receiving OT when he was about 4 or 5 months old. So I
Wow.
feel like our support team, including our OT, is part of our family. So thank you for being here today with us. So we're just going to get started. Tell us a little bit about your participation in the book King's Day Out.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here and to be a part of this event today and to be representing all of the OTs who work with so many kiddos and so many families to help support kiddos' success. I've been in OT for 22 years, and right before the pandemic, I ended up meeting Maggie Van Galen, who is the co-author of King's Day Out, and we started talking about she was talking about a book that she wanted to write. And I was talking to her about how I have noticed that there are so many kiddos who are learning about sensory strategies in their OT sessions, but have a harder time with the carryover of those OT strategies in everyday adventures. And wouldn't it be cool to have a book where you could show kids and families and other professionals how important OT strategies and OT treatment is for supporting the foundation of kids' growth, development, and success in everyday adventures. And so that's how the book kind of got started. Maggie was talking about King, who is her puppy, and his adventure at the car wash. And I had said to her that there are so many kids who have sensory differences, who have a hard time with adventures like the car wash, because it's a very sensory based environment. So there's sounds, there's smells, there's noises, everything's very unpredictable. And OTs can be supportive in all of those environments that are unfamiliar from a sensory perspective.
I love that. I don't think people always realize what all an OT does. Are there practical things, if someone hasn't gotten their therapies approved yet for insurance or whatever else that they may be going through? And I know it's different for different age groups, but let's say let's make it simplified. If you have a toddler and they were just diagnosed, are there some things they can be doing on a day-to-day basis that you would recommend as an OT? And again, if it's too specific, I certainly understand that too.
Sure. I mean, we treat kids of all ages and ability levels. I own a clinic in Massachusetts where, we really look at the whole child. And so we're looking at not just like, how are their fine motor skills, or can they hold a pencil or can they color? But from an outpatient OT perspective, we're really looking at all of those foundational skills that kids need to have to move through the stages of development and to foster growth and development. So we're looking at how do they feel in their environment? Are they safe? Do they feel safe? That's that regulation and co-regulation piece. And we need to have that first, that bottom foundation of feeling safe in your environment before you can access your environment. So you really want to look at how your child is talking to you, even if they're talking to you in a different way, like, they're very scared, or they're, not aware of things going on in their environment. They're telling you something. Yeah. And then when they're telling you something and it's making it harder for them to access the things they need to do in their daily life, which for kiddos is, things like getting dressed, brushing your teeth, being a part of mealtime, interacting with others in the environment, doing play, like being able to interact and play, because play is how kids explore and grow and learn. If you're seeing your kids struggling with those kinds of things, that's when you want to talk to a professional about, how can we help to foster this? How can you help our family? And how can we follow this through at home in terms of different activities that we can do with our kiddos? And there is a huge, broad range of different things that can be done for kids of all ages and ability levels.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I think was just so beautifully said to me a few months ago was a parent I was talking to who had unfortunately lost their child. After years and years ago, they were diagnosed with Dupe 15. And one of the things I love that she said to me is that she learned that the journey was that let your kid be where they are today. Do you have advice for parents? Because I just want parents to walk away feeling encouraged. Like if they're going, my child's not doing this, and Embers is, or Naka's is, or Chris's is, what should they do from your perspective as an OT?
You just meet your kids where they're at. That's what you have to do. You have to meet your kids where you're at, and you have to support them with the things that they're struggling with and just move them through that so that they feel success. In the OT world, we talk about meaningful activity and the just right challenge. And so when you find something that connects with a child, it empowers them to be able to participate in whatever those activities are that are going to stimulate growth.
Yeah.
And then, when your child is participating in these types of activities, what you want to do is give the right level of support so that the child is working, but the child is also feeling success. You don't ever want the child to feel like, oh, I couldn't do that, or this is too hard, or I'm being set up for not being able to succeed. You want to make sure that whatever you do and however you frame that activity, that you're setting them up for success. And so from a sensory perspective, it's things like we talk about in the book. It's talking about like having a visual schedule and preparing the child for what they're going to be going through, having the right tools that the child can use when they're in that event. So again, King's Day Out, the car wash, they go through that visual schedule. They have an adventure bag that has the sound blocker headphones to support the auditory piece that's going to be stressful. They have the weighted blanket that helps from that calming and proprioceptive perspective. And then they have, the at the end, they know they're going to go somewhere fun. They're going to get to go to the park. And so it's doing all of those things to prepare the child to be able to have success in that particular activity.
Amy, can you touch a little bit on your chats with Dr. Amy that you provide?
Absolutely. I love, as you guys can tell, I love talking about OT, and I love talking about ways to support.
It's passion. And when you're passionate about, like, it shows. So I love it.
And the biggest thing for me is like empowering kids and empowering families. That's what our whole mission is at Kids Shine, and throughout King's Day Out too, is like how to empower kids and families to, be self-aware, to have self-advocacy, and to do what they need to do to be successful. And so that's what these chats are about too. So there's different topics that we talk about every time we go on the chat. And so the last chat was talking about like things, activities that you can do with your kids in the spring, that are going to help to support the kiddos growth and development, and allow them to access those spring-based activities and why they're good for them, right? So like digging in the garden or participating in gardening. That's a really great activity for kids, just in terms of a lot of different things like interaction with your parent and that co-regulation piece, but then the proprioceptive input you get from the digging, and then the fine motor from dropping the seeds in, and then that satisfaction of like taking care of the garden and watching things grow. So it's really kind of just reframing the way you're looking at things, and making sure that in each of these different activities that your child is participating in, that you're thinking about like, how are you helping to further support their growth and development? And that's what we talk about in the chats.
I love it. And I love how, there's always a way, no matter on the cognitive level, that a child can participate. And we need to think outside of the box. And it sounds like as an OT, that's what you do quite often, probably quite naturally as well. So OT is an individualized approach. I mean, that's one of the biggest things, especially in pediatrics. There's no like script or cookbook or something that you use for this, you do that. It's when you meet the child and you're in the moment with the child, and then you're interacting with the child and seeing what it is that they're driven to do and what it is that excites them and what it is that's meaningful to them. You then use that to be able to work on furthering the skills and making sure that they're successful in what they're doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Because I think a lot of people who, and I've been saying this throughout our morning, but who are newly diagnosed and they hear PT, OT, speech therapy, this and this, we forget like it's not foreign to us now because we all talk about it. But thank you for shedding light on like, it's not just, oh, they're not ready to feed themselves. It's so much more than what people sometimes think OT is. So thank you. Thank you for sharing this. And thank you for getting, I love your passion. You said something about talking. I was like, oh, I feel it. I'm feeling it. We want to have you back to talk more about this. So thank you. Thank you for your time and for what you've put into this book as well. And we'll just keep our conversation going with you in the future.
Absolutely.
And we will put in the chat how people can join your chats with Dr. Amy.
Absolutely. Sure. I love for people to bring questions, and I'd love to just talk about whatever people have on their mind about how we can support kids.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we will be back in a few minutes with our next guest.
Okay.